Hello and welcome to a new episode of 12 Months of Dollywood, coming to you in April of 2022. I've got a few guests today. We're going to talk about changes we've seen in the park and how we feel about them. I'm going to go ahead and let them in the show here. To my this side, I have at ThrillingMoment on Twitter and Dollywood. On Twitter and Instagram, Jack Lathrop. And down here, I have Justin Hornback. He was the guest last month. We talked for about 2 hours, I think it was. So what do you guys think? Do you have any like just initial things you want to say about what you've seen at Dollywood this year?
It was very wet the day I was there. That was for sure.
They've not controlled the weather very well.
No,
the weather cold every time I've been there.
The weather this year has
snowed
been
the first time I was there, the second day. But that's not their fault, I don't think.
No, I think the thing I want to we're definitely going to have to talk about this because I want your all's opinions on it too, is the parking lot. I don't know how I feel about it.
It's very interesting. And I noticed that the trams moved. Like there was never a bottleneck. It never seemed like. I mean, I like that the trams are separate from, and the trolley, from the whole. I like that they're separate. It takes a little bit longer to drive out of Dollywood, but I honestly didn't have that bad of a problem with it. I'm curious though when it gets really, really, really busy this summer, how that's going to go.
They did give up quite a few
spots.
That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah, that, and then the thing I'm really curious to see how much just general chaos there was with it, because for me driving in, it's been going to Dollywood my entire life, and you've driven on the right hand side on the car road, and the tram road was always on the inside, and so for me to pull into the parking lot and driving on the left and driving down what was tram road, which was like forbidden territory. You never drove over there. And so the whole time I'm driving down it, it's like, this is so weird. And then for me, I was parking up in the preferred lot. And so I tried to turn up onto the road to go up into the preferred lot, and you can't turn there anymore. And so I'm just all of a sudden just like aimlessly driving. I have no idea how to get to the preferred lot anymore, what I'm doing. And it was just like this, it was almost like an out-of-body experience. I was like, this is so wrong. I'm like doing everything I've been told not to do. And then like to drive right through like where the old tram shed was and then do like a 180-degree turn. It was so weird to me getting up to the preferred lot. And I can definitely kind of see like their idea behind it with traffic flow. But for me, like, I just can't help but imagine how like chaotic it's going to be for a while with all of the locals who've only known it as it was for so long to now have to try to not do it that way. Because I had the road to myself and I was struggling. I can't imagine what it will be like on a busy Saturday morning with hundreds of cars going in.
The thing I noticed that was funny is when you come in, you know, there's like 10 of these booths, but you naturally go to the left. And so they've now put cones that kind of direct people to go to the right, because so many, and I was as bad at it myself.
Oh yeah.
I saw that lane behind people.
And what was odd, like when you're leaving and you come down the hill as you normally would, you come down that sharp hill and you used to go straight. Now you have to go, you have to turn, and that is going to be a really interesting spot there, because it's just, you just want to go right down, but you have to make, and it's a sharp turn. It's not like, oh, I can ease. It's like, I mean, it's a lightning rod turn. I mean, that's what it is. It's a turn.
I came down the hill with a little bit of speed and I hit my brakes pretty hard.
Yeah, me too.
The only thing that really bothers me is that they said they weren't going to get rid of A, Applejack, B, and Dolly's earrings, and those are not showing up in the signs. Not that it's a big deal.
At least not yet. I don't know. Maybe they have A, B, C. Is it just A, B, and C? Is that it?
D. There's a D.
Okay. Yeah. So, but there's no E, so you can't. You just can just have Dolly.
Well, it used to be DE for some reason.
Right. Because that worked with Dolly's earrings, and now we don't.
Probably so.
We got rid of Dolly's earrings. So
Oh, no, they lost them. They're out there in the middle of Wildwood Grove. They're looking for it right now.
there you go. That's what they're digging for up there, right?
Yeah.
Nice segue. Nice segue there.
It is one of my favorite running Dollywood jokes. Is that anytime they're building something, oh, we're just looking for Dollywood. She lost an earring the last time she was here. We got to go find it.
Do they really say that? Is this?
Yep, you're right. When you're on the train, they'll say, they'll be like, oh, if you see that giant dirt pile over there, Dolly lost an earring. They're looking for it.
Nice.
I did hear that one time. That is pretty good.
I think that's been a running joke for, I think since she got involved with the park in the 80s was when that joke started.
Makes sense. Why not?
All right, so fill me in. Is it a recording that you hear on the train, or is it an actual person? Because I think the voice sounds exactly the same every single time I'm there.
It's a real person.
It's a real person on the back of the train.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do all sound the same, and they definitely have a script. So,
Yeah.
I mean, winter, spring, summer, it always sounds like the exact same person.
Well, Jack, you probably know more. They don't. I mean, now this is just me guessing. It seems that there's only been like 3 or 4 of those, not conductors, but the ones that sit on the back and then talk. Because, like Lewis is saying, it always seems like the same people. Now, one of them, God rest his soul, he passed away last year, I think it was.
mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, every time I've been down there, it's been like it's the same 3 or 4 people.
It's, as far as I'm aware, it's a pretty hard to land job. Like working on the train itself is not the hardest job in the park to get, but to sit on the back of the train and give that spiel is one of the hardest jobs in the park to get. And I think you have to have worked on the train for so long before you're allowed to do it. And I also do know the train has one of to run that train, the crew for the train is actually the biggest crew on the park, even though you barely see but like 5 or 6 people. I think the team that backs up the train is like 50 or 60 people with the maintenance staff and the engineers and conductors, but it's like you said, I think only 4 or 5 people are trusted with sitting on the back of the train doing the spiels.
It's a coveted job. That's what if I was going to be there, I'd either be a photographer or work the train, at least right now. Ask me next year. Might have a different, when something gets built, I may change my mind, but right now that's about what I'd want.
I'm pretty sure we need to call you Encyclopedia Jack because you know more about Dollywood than
I do.
Rides and things.
If anybody is a Dollywood insider, it's Jack. He's got the inside.
It's one of those, like, I grew up with Dollywood. It's a lot of like who I am comes from going to Dollywood all the time.
Yeah.
And
okay, but I've been going to Disney World longer than you've been alive.
Okay,
I'm still kind of a neophyte there compared to a lot of people, but I do not know the details about Disney World that you know. Even though I've watched and read and followed the blogs and kept up.
Yeah. Disney World, I know like the roller coaster. That's about all I know, though. I'm not a huge. The thing that shocks everyone is when they find out I've never been to Disney World.
I was shocked by that.
It's not for everybody. I will say that. Honestly.
Seriously?
I'd rather go to Dollywood any day. Any day.
I'd rather go to both of them.
Yeah.
I find them both just pleasing for different reasons.
Now I want to go back to Kings Island and Holiday World. I haven't been there in years.
Holiday World is a great time. I don't know when I'm gonna get to Kings Island. It's only like 3.5, 4 hours up the road from me, so I'll make it up there at some point this year. But Holiday World is a must visit for me every year.
Yeah. See, I haven't been. I think Jack and I had talked about it sometime, probably in 2020. There at Holiday World, I rode the Raven 60 some times when there was no wait and we got to ride. I don't know that I could do that on Lightning Rod, I just
You
don't
mean
know
in
that
a
I could make
day?
it that many times. Yeah.
I did not know this about you.
They
That's my
never.
kind of thing to do.
We didn't have to get off the ride, if that tells you anything. We could just we just were able to stay, which you can't really do in all places. But yeah, now
Dollywood will
lightning
not
rod,
allow
I don't
you.
think I could do. Oh my gosh.
Even
Man.
if you're the only person in the park by yourself during a non-special event, they will not let you re-ride.
Yep.
Yep.
Sometimes during
It's
a special
true.
event, you'll get a couple of re-rides here and there, but
Oh, you're talking about the train. So the Jack, what'd you think about the tunnel being gone?
Oh, I have feelings. I have feelings about that.
Do tell.
So, I mean, that is original Dollywood. That's been there longer than almost anything else in the park. So to see it not there was like, it was a sad moment to see that. And I remember when I saw the first picture of it not being there, I texted someone. I'm like, y'all are really taking that out? It's like, please tell me you're putting it back. It just needed to be repaired. It's like, no, we're taking it out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go cry. If you can pull a piece of the rubble out and ship it to me, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, like, I remember my mom and my grandparents telling me stories about the flooded mine ride at Silver Dollar City. And it's like, that's where it was. And it just kind of hurts to not see it there. And it stings right now too, because, and I did talk to someone I know that works at the park, and they said that wall is not done. It needs to get dressed up some, but because of supply chain issues, they haven't had the chance to do that yet. But it still just hurt to see just a wall there, knowing what used to be in its spot.
Well, and you mentioned that, so I did not know that it's not done. Now knowing that, I'm very curious to see what happens, because what I loved about the tunnel was when you came in, you got to see it said Silver Dollar Mine up there, and I was like, I love the homage, to the Silver Dollar City. I'd love to see something like that up on that wall. I'd love to see something there that just brings it back. I don't even if it's just like a silver dollar. I mean, if it's just as simple as that, but it would be pretty cool to see that back.
And that was a lot of it for me, because there was a sign in the tunnel, and I am sure someone has it in their office now. And the sign said it all started right here, which is that's where the train that's where the station was, and that's where like the buildings were back in the 60s when Rebel Railroad started. And so that sign that said it all started right here, like that, please just like put that back up. I know one of you has it in your office, because like I know enough of the Upper Dollywood team to know they are all massive nerds, just like we are, and care about the park. And they're not going to let like a piece of history like that just get tossed away. So someone's got that sign. But yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the wall. I was just told that it's not finished. And the other thing, and we can talk about this a little as we go through some of the other changes in the park. There was a lot of things that I was told the next couple of years we're going to see some things happen that at first are going to make the park look not as good. But if we'll let them like play their master plan out over 4 or 5 years, it'll all get fixed and look really good. But a lot of it, they said, we kind of do have to screw some things up, tear some things down to build it back up even better. And so that was the other thing, like walking around the park, I'm like, okay, I see what you've done here. I don't like it right now, but I'll give you 4 or 5 years before I'm really critical of it.
Yeah.
I'm getting some serious Epcot vibes here.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and even like
a wasteland in some places,
Jack's talking about, it kind of reminds me of Animal Kingdom. I mean, a park that is supposed to be basically in Africa and the rainforest and all that stuff, and it just gets prettier the more it's there because it grows up, and that's kind of like Wildwood Grove. In 5 years, that area is going to be beautiful. I think as long as it continues to grow and nothing else gets torn down. Going back to the tunnel, if you don't mind, Lewis. I like I hated to see it gone, but I did like it going because now I can see the train for a much longer time.
Mm-hmm.
And my son really liked that and was going along with it there. And I'm very curious if it's going to change or add a parade route.
Maybe.
That would
Because
be
now we've got a different route to kind of go through. And I'm very, it's a nice wide area there. I'm just really curious. Very curious.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you guys actually, did either of you experience any of the things that were there other than the tunnel?
I did
Because to
not.
me, it feels like a scar. The whole thing always felt like a scar. Like there's some buildings up there. What are they? Oh, they're dead. We can't build them. Oh, they're
I never
condemned,
got
right?
to
They had to come out.
experience any of the rides over there, but I've heard all the stories from my mom and from her mom. And so for me, it's like I knew what all of it meant. I knew what all of it was. And so it was like, it was always this cool nod to the past of everything that Dollywood had once been. And to see it gone, it's like, okay, it's kind of like you're erasing your history. But then also I get where they're coming from, because you mentioned, Justin, the wide paths. And that was something they've really been pushing, because they've realized in the last couple of years that they are no longer the tiny family park of the Smoky Mountains. They're a national destination.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
so they're having to go back through and make all of these changes from the 70s and 80s, where they built these really narrow paths that, can't really hold a crowd that well. And now they're having to go back and rework them to be able to hold a massive Christmas crowd or a massive summer night crowd. And it reminds me of, it's like going to Disneyland versus going to Disney World, but imagine trying to take the really like tight parts of Disneyland, like the New Orleans Square in Disneyland, and trying to expand that and make it bigger. And that's what it feels like Dollywood is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to miss it as much, since I didn't know anything about the past. When I went to Disneyland, they have the People Mover. There's like little pieces of the People Mover that are still hanging around. And the People Mover is one of the favorite attractions at Disney World. And Disney World used to have a Skyliner, you could go along. I love the one at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. A lot of good pictures from there.
Yeah, I
But
did some
there was a
pictures off of
station
it
there that
earlier.
was there forever. And it was like, what is this, thing hanging there around? It makes the park look old and run down to have things that are kind of halfway built. Whereas the new pathway does have a nice, fresh, clean look and a lot of places to sit. But it definitely needs some prettiness, some flowers, something. I love the idea that the parade could come through there. But there's not a lot of place to control the crowd either in that area.
Yeah.
That was an interesting part of seeing Dolly on the first day, is there was a lot of crowd control involved.
Yeah. And I think another thing, have to give them like the benefit of the doubt, is I was talking to them, they had to delay the start of Flower and Food Festival because of how bad the weather's been. And so we haven't really gotten to see the park in like its peak prettiness yet, because it feels like we're still on the tail end of winter, and here we are in the middle of April.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some pictures from a press release. Have they put the topiaries out already?
I don't think so. I think they're still looking at the weather and being like, we can't put the flowers out.
That's what I thought too, but I didn't. I guess they could be from last year, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yes, the bear's back. I like the bear.
Or those good old mock-ups. Mock-up pictures anymore look just as real as and better than the real thing.
Well, and it was just talking about like all that and pictures from last year, because I was looking at some of my pictures from last year around this time. I was going to I think I'm going to do a post on Instagram here in the next couple of days from Dollywood. And I was looking at my pictures from this time last year, and everything was green and it was all pretty. And I look out the window and it's gray and boring. And I'm like, why don't we have green leaves and flowers yet? It's so weird to me not having spring weather. And here we are. We should be knocking on summer at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're like it feels like we're a month behind on our weather.
Mhm.
Definitely does.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all weird on the whole tunnel thing. There's good, there's bad. There's not this dank tunnel you get to walk through. The fact that there was water in the tunnel always was a little disconcerting.
Yeah.
How about Iron Horse Pizza? Did you see it? Did you eat there?
I
I
walked
ate-
past
it
it.
was good,
I didn't
too.
get to go inside or eat there, but I walked past it, and it looks good from the outside. And I definitely know it was a much needed change because that side of the park needed a good like restaurant and also something that could handle high capacity. Because that was another thing with like going to this. We're a national destination now, as our food services. They've always prided themselves on having great food, but there's also the secret of being able to have great food and being able to serve 10,000 people.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And the lines last year, at least during the summer, were scary. I mean, no offense, Dollywood, but they were it was like 45 minutes to an hour standing in line to wait. And I know a lot of that was also due to staffing issues and stuff, but also they were having stands that weren't open. And that really, because because it was Victoria's Pizza prior. We're talking about Iron Horse Pizza. It was Victoria's Pizza, and it was this little bitty box that you went into to order, and it would have a line like crazy. And now it's got that nice, it's got a beautiful sitting area that's out there. It is really nice. It's very much akin to over in Wildwood Grove, to Till and Harvest. I mean, that's what it's got the pergola and the nice chairs and the tables. I mean, that's really what it reminds me of. But getting to go through the service line is better. And now, while I was there, I ran into the president. He was checking it out at the same time. So he was saying, and you guys might know this better, I think they only had like one oven in there. It was something like that to cook the pizza, and now they're up to however many. They have more than one that they can cook.
It's not the final version where they're at now.
They're still going well. So I mean, and they can now have a good sized line inside there, and they have 2 registers, which is
there's 4. There's actually 4 slots to
4.
pay.
So I mean, it is definitely it's definitely an increase. I did have a pizza from there. Did either of you?
Yes.
I did not.
What'd you think, Lewis?
I liked it. I thought it was the best pizza at Dollywood since they had the big pound slices up at that place was
Lumberjack.
really good, but it was decent flatbread pizza.
It was definitely flatbread. I liked the sauce a lot. It was a really good sauce. I had pepperoni. I liked it. I could eat a whole one by myself. And that's probably what I would need. I don't think I could really split it and then be okay. I would definitely have to have a whole one myself.
And it wasn't super expensive for theme park food.
Yeah.
The only downside I found was that the seating was outside, and I was freezing. And in winter, it's not going to be the most awesome place.
It's going to be pretty chilly right there.
But
I'm expecting them to install some of the porch heaters or like the fire lamps or stuff for the winter. Because a lot of that stuff too, and it just keeps going back to this state we're all in right now with supply chain. Like the pizza ovens, they didn't have all of their pizza ovens because of supply chain. I have a feeling they're waiting on like heaters and stuff and all that. And so I think that's a thing we're going to see. Really, probably this is going to be a several year effect with as long as the supply chain issues lasted. Is we're going to see things just get added. Like we'll go one time and then we'll go another, month down the line. There'll be a couple more changes throughout the park just as they've been able to get the stuff in to finish something up. But I think it's like we were talking about with the ovens, would you rather it just not be open, or would you rather it be open with one oven at limited capacity? And I think
Right.
they're making the right decision, just going ahead and getting it open.
Yep. I agree.
So,
And it eased the lines. And like Lewis was saying, it's the, you need that there. I mean, you've got to have it. There's so many people that stand and wait for the train. You've got to be able to have something alleviate, or you run people to the wrong side of the park.
Yep.
So would you rather have that open or Granny Ogles?
Oh, Granny Ogles.
I know the problem with Granny Ogles is it's right next to another place. That's
Who cares?
I've never quite understood.
I don't care. Give me Granny Ogles.
Again, I think that's one of those random things that's just left over from the 70s, 80s when the park wasn't like massive. It's like, okay, we'll just group all the restaurants because this is the end of the park. But
Yeah.
when Granny Ogles reopens, I think the three of us have to meet up and go have a meal there.
Man, but I want it to reopen to the same type of food and the same taste that it had. That's my fear. It's going to be Granny Ogles, and it's going to be like, whatever, Sloppy Joe's or something. And we're like, oh yeah, all right. I want Granny Pit ham. That's what I want. I want a good old pit ham from Granny Ogles. Man, oh man,
that sounds good.
Yes,
I want to try the other place that used to be Miss Lillian's. I don't know what they serve there now.
It's
but it's not
because I got it, and it's
okay.
It's a local barbecue place.
Oh, that's right.
They just moved from like or they added one from the Carolinas, I think is what they had told me. And oh my gosh, I can't think of, but it was good. I enjoyed it, and they had some of the best baked beans that I've had. I don't know, there was like a sweetness, almost like an orangey flavor to it. Is something it was really good. I liked it.
Sometimes when people describe foods like that, you say orangey. That does not make me go, ooh, baked beans.
Well,
it's like oranges.
You just have to get them. That's all I have to tell you.
Yeah, actually, like orange, it's kind of a staple of like Carolina barbecue flavor. Is a little citrusy to it.
There you go. Maybe
there's another one of my many interests and hobbies is I love barbecue. So,
have you had the Hickory House barbecue then, Jack?
Yes, I have. It's good. So theme park barbecue it's a tough thing because good barbecue needs to sit for like 48 hours, and it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard in theme park. You have to cheat at your barbecue. You can't slow roast anything for 48 hours in a high enough quantity.
It is some of the best barbecue that I've had at a theme park, though.
Yes,
I mean, they do a good job.
As much as I hate not giving Dollywood number one spot, I'm going to say Hickory House is number 2 for barbecue at a theme park. Number 1 is actually Coney Island Barbecue at Kings Island, because they have somehow figured out how to slow roast their ribs overnight, and it annihilates all of our theme park barbecue I've had. Just because.
Okay, if we're going to talk ribs here, that's Disney World has the ribs.
Where?
Okay,
where?
Disney World is like its own beast, though, because it's
Nomad
Disney
Lounge,
World, and they have
Nomad's Lounge
ribs that are fantastic.
Yeah,
there's 2 rib places. There's 3 places to get ribs in the Animal Kingdom.
Okay,
that's a lot of places.
Now here's the thing: I like barbecue. I'm not a ribs person.
Okay,
I never have been.
I have to ask them, what's your favorite type of barbecue?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. That's a hard one. Because my wife will do barbecue, like barbecue chicken in the crock pot. And I love it. But it's just, it's just cooked chicken, and then, because she'll do chicken usually, and barbecue sauce, like Sweet Baby Ray's. But I'll eat, barbecue-wise, I'll eat any. We've got some local barbecue places, and one of them, it's called D's Butts, and it's really good.
I think we may be judging you for
you can
something cooked in a crock pot barbecue.
Bring it on. That just means I get to eat all of it.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not good.
I
Hey,
didn't say that I was a barbecue connoisseur by any means.
There's
I
some
just like
things
to
in this
eat.
world that
See, I'm
are good,
definitely a
but they're not
barbecue
fancy.
connoisseur. I will.
I'll just eat it.
My dad and I have made stops on our trips just to eat at a barbecue joint. And so
I believe that.
because I mentioned it now, I'll shout it out for anyone who's listening. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, you have to go to Joe's Barbecue. Go to the original one. It's in an old gas station. It's still a functioning gas station. You can still fill your car up, but you can also get some of the best barbecue you will ever have.
Nice.
So at Joe's Barbecue in Kansas City, it's on the Kansas side, and then also if you're in Kansas City, you got to go to Bryant's Barbecue, and go visit Go visit Walt Disney's Childhood Home while you're there too.
Yeah, no, that would be neat. Yeah, yeah. It's that's the fun thing about barbecue is that it's one of those foods that you can just do whatever with. I feel like, and because there's just so many different variations, everybody does it differently.
That is true, but not a crock pot. Not saying it's not delicious. That again,
Oh no, I'm not saying no, because we've got some local places here, and it's hard to choose because I feel like when I go and buy from one, that the next week I have to buy from the other one because I want them both to stay around. They're just good. They have different flavors. That's the problem.
Yep,
it's hard.
There's our barbecue tangent for the evening.
There you go. Yep.
And what were we talking about? Changes in Dollywood. So, did you notice the Christmas cottage being gone?
Yep.
Yes.
Not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
It was such a bad location too.
It really was.
Like, I think it's one of the very few buildings I had never been in at Dollywood just because of where it was. And it was always either Christmas in the park or not Christmas, and I don't want to see Christmas.
And they didn't have Dollywood decorations. They had like a style of decoration which was okay, but it wasn't Dollywood. I don't go to Dollywood to buy non-Dollywood things generally.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it was tiny. It was a tiny store that was crammed full of Christmas. It was hard to get around in. It was a cute little cottage, but I am not surprised they got rid of it. Once they moved it out of there, it's like that thing is.
Yeah.
It's not long for this world.
Well, and that hill is just such a bad little hill because, I mean, it's not a fun hill to walk up at all. Like that was probably one of the steeper sections of Dollywood, and so it just never was like a great place to stop. But the other building they knocked down that did surprise me a little more was the Eagle gift shop.
Yep.
In Craftsman's Valley. Or was it like Eagle Trading Outpost or something? But like Lewis was walking right next to me, and I'm like, there was a building here.
Yeah.
Huh? And I think, again, that one was a little better place, but I think that building got taken out more for like guest flow. But the thing I really liked about it was now I can stand up by Blazing Fury and look all the way down Craftsman's Valley, or I can stand down just past like the hat shop by the grist mill and look all the way up Craftsman's Valley. I can see end to end now because that building always blocked your view. And I think that's kind of cool to be able to see Craftsman's Valley like the whole way up and down now.
It's not broken up. And it also actually opens up. I mean, you're talking about opening it. You can see the bird show now. Mm-hmm. And you can see the Eagle Sanctuary there just a lot easier. It opens up a lot for that.
They also got rid of the in that very same area the
caricature spot.
The caricature spot,
yeah. But all of that whole section is just wide open now. Again,
totally shocking when you were like just walking up there, like you said. It's like
for a parade of some kind.
Possibly.
I don't know.
I think it feels like it's a little empty right now. Like maybe you need another building off on like the far right of the pathway now. It feels like it could use something in there, or maybe even like a small food stand. but it felt empty. But also, we were there on a very not busy day, very wet and dreary day. So not like I think I'll probably appreciate it more when I see how full that area is with people in the summer.
I'm curious if they're
October is when I'll really feel most appreciative.
I'm curious if they'll. I know they redid Hickory House barbecue, and I'm curious if they're going to expand it because it stays so busy now. And then they tore down that covered sitting area next to it, which was surprising to me. I know that they, moved the blacksmith shop, and replaced it with a seating area. I'm just surprised they took that one down, but I could see them expanding the Hickory House barbecue because it's constantly at lunch, constantly busy.
Yeah. Some of the information I have on Hickory House that was their first experiment ever closing a restaurant during the operating season and doing renovations on it, which make of that what you will.
It was sad.
It was sad to see it close during the season, but I think we're all going to appreciate why they tried that experiment in the long run.
Yeah.
But with that, I think also you're talking about the foods or the covered seating area. I know those were old. It won't surprise me if that's just something they're looking to replace and haven't decided exactly how they want to do it yet.
Also, lumber costs like $800 a square. So
yeah, and it could very well be if they just don't want to spend that much money on a shed right now, which I honestly can't blame them. I don't think I would want to spend $1,000 on or more than that on some framework and a roof.
I totally understand. Yeah.
I will say that was my favorite place to sit.
Yeah, it was nice. And you could people watch. I like that you could people watch, but you weren't in the way.
I think that's the first place possibly I think that I ever saw Lewis. I think that's the first time I saw you was right there. I remember running into you in that sitting area spot. So we'll have to go over there and draw on the ground sometime. Lewis was here.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That would be funny.
Oh
no, and I again talking about how busy it was because that was something I know that Hickory House was always busy. Words are hard tonight. Hickory House was busy before they renovated it. It was busy after they renovated it. So I'm curious, are they going to expand upon it and increase the capacity, more registers, more kitchen area to put more food out, or are they happy with where it's at? And
well, I mean,
probably
you've got between there in Craftsman's Valley, you used to have Granny Ogles. But you've got Miss Lillian's, and then the little outpost of Miss Lillian's that's there, and then Hickory House. And every time those three, if they were open at the same time, they were always busy. And now that it's just the two, they're still constantly busy, even though they're not, really not that far away from each other. So, and I only see Dollywood's crowds increasing by, exponentially in the next year. I mean, they are at the point where they're growing, in people size, they're growing faster than they can build anything. And it's a growing pain. That's all it is. There's nothing bad about it. It's good that they're that popular. It's just getting that popular so fast and then not being able to, have places. That's just the thing. So
I feel like they need some more food up by the, what's the place called that used to be where the Christmas tree is? That area. They need more food up there and more seating.
Yeah.
Wilderness Pass.
The back part of the park could really use it's because you've got those couple of little food stands, the hot dog stands right there. There's a couple places.
Yeah.
But that part of the park could really use a high service restaurant with honestly a little more Dollywood flair to it, because a lot of the food back in that part of the park is what I would call generic theme park food.
Well, other than the food trucks, that's got to be why they brought them there.
Brilliant to bring the food trucks in. I think that's a great idea, especially in the short term. I don't know, although I've always loved when theme parks bring food trucks in. I think it's a really cool way to support your local businesses. But
Yeah.
I also appreciate when theme parks go all in and build a nice new fancy restaurant. So either will keep me happy.
And I still say, I'm going to say it here out loud. The Sugar Queen, pretzel, cinnamon sugar pretzel, is better than Dollywood cinnamon bread. I said it. You have it on recording. I loved it.
See, I love Dollywood cinnamon bread, but it's never been my favorite sweet thing in the park.
All right,
It's
so what
good.
is your favorite sweet thing in the park? I can't think of anything better.
The cinnamon rolls at Spotlight Bakery.
Seriously,
Oh.
because every time I've had them, they've been kind of dry and
No,
Yeah.
those are my favorite. And here's your fun fact. So I got to talk to the head chef at Dollywood a couple years ago, and he and I actually share that opinion. We both like the cinnamon rolls at Spotlight Bakery more than the cinnamon bread. So I've got the head chef at Dollywood on my side.
and it could be the time. I had the cinnamon bread at the Dreammore in February. You know, the park's closed. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that good because it had been cooked and it tasted like bread, not the gooey deliciousness that as when they're not
Yeah.
cooking as much and it's not sitting as long underneath lamps.
I
I may
do-
have gotten a bad cinnamon roll.
I
but
do think, I do think it tastes a little different than it did before 2020.
the cinnamon rolls. Or the
What
cinnamon bread?
the bread, yeah, but just they started to when they changed the packaging of how they were doing it. I feel like it started to change just a little bit there, and I'm sure a lot of it's they have to mass produce it as well. So I don't. It's just not. I don't know. Maybe I'm mean. It just doesn't.
I don't know.
taste
I'm still having
as good.
good feelings from Thrills in the Hills. It's worth every.
Oh yeah,
the
because
amount it costs to
you
go to
walked
the-
away with like 15 loaves, didn't you?
and you can, yes, it was so good. We actually did get about 5 loaves total. Well, actually 6. We took home 4. We ate 2.
I was close. I don't
It
blame.
is
I mean,
so good every meal.
it's not that I don't like it. I mean, if I'm gonna be able to walk away with 8 or 10 of them, I'm gonna take them. Are you kidding? It is good.
But I'm gonna try cinnamon roll and come back and
There you go.
say how I feel about them this time because
You
Yeah,
need to request a certain type so that they make it fresh, and then you get to see it.
see, I'm always afraid to do that. Can I have a fresh cinnamon roll instead of whatever that is? Yes, but ignore the flavor of.
Sure, we'll get you a fresh one here.
Why does
Pardon
this
me.
Tastes like dirt.
Yeah.
No, I know they would never do that. There's a total disclaimer. But
We're just joking. We're just joking.
it always feels insulting to go. It's not insulting to say, can I have something that's overcooked? But can I say, can I have something that's fresh and not what's out here on the front? Just seems
Now we're still talking about food. So I will start this. I miss the original Till and Harvest food.
I miss the second and third Till and Harvest food even.
Well,
And the Mexican food there is
Wait, they
really,
changed
really
it?
decent.
it's just like it's cheeseburgers and
Wow,
chicken
really?
nuggets or something like that, right? That's what it was last year. I'm sure it's demand. I'm sure it's supply chain stuff, but on
Yeah,
the app, on the Dollywood app, it still says American Mexican favorite.
The
Or
American
Mexican American favorite, however you say it. So I'm like, that's not really it.
Yeah, because I remember sampling because when they had Wildwood Grove Media Day, Till and Harvest wasn't finished yet, but
Right,
they
yeah.
made us all of the food that Till and Harvest was going to serve, and it was that Mexican American, like a lot of it felt like it was like just variations on like street tacos and stuff like that. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
My dad and I were both like, "This is great. This is going to be our new stop in the favorite place to eat in the park." And it was there for about 2 years, but then I think over time, I think they've slowly had to switch over to a little more generic. And I think a lot of it is, especially COVID, I think a lot of it is your supply chain issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is also, it takes one person to drop a bunch of chicken tenders in a fryer. It probably
Right.
takes a few more people to make some good like street tacos.
Oh my God. Well, the number of people they had making the rice for that. I mean, when you go in, because that kitchen is huge.
Mhm.
And they would have, I mean, it was at least 10 people back there constantly cooking because they would do, wasn't it like chicken and beef
Yep.
and they had the rice, and then they had, I mean, it was a lot of stuff, and man, it was so good. I really miss that food. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the supply chain stuff and all, but man, that was some good food.
Well, and always, I think it's probably always been one of my favorite places to eat in the park is the skillet, the flat iron skillets right there at the front of the park, with the steak fajitas and all of it. I just love how that's set up because you can walk right through there and it just smells wonderful always. And the food's fantastic. That's probably my favorite, like
at the marketplace. Okay, yes.
Yeah, the marketplace, yes. I couldn't think of what it was called. And I just love the food there, and I love that it smells so good. And it's like you walk through there and you just get immediately hungry.
There's not many places that you get to see a cast iron skillet that size that they're cooking everything on. I mean, that's just not something. I do have to ask, Lewis, what do you think that we will see the marketplace totally redone? Because it
thinking
it just bottlenecks right there.
I can imagine that being one of the next casualties of the.
Yep.
Because that's one of the weirdest locations in a theme park I've been in.
And they're going to get rid of that store
restaurant to get to the rest of the park.
That store on the right-hand side is going to go away, and that'll be that's where they'll serve the food with the funnel cakes down at the end. All of that, and it'll just be open there. I'm just speculating.
I can see them rebuilding it and making the marketplace thing bigger and making two different. Have four.
I hope that's
days.
what it is. Yeah, that
would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of I know for a fact it's one of the upper management's favorite restaurants in the park. So I don't think we have to worry about the food going away, but the building, because that building is the original entrance to Dollywood. That was where the original.
Is it really?
That was the Silver Dollar City. That was the turnstiles, and where the Christmas tree or the globe or whatever centerpiece for a festival. That's where the Silver Dollar City sign would have been.
Isn't that
and so
wild?
That building is literally just repurposed into this marketplace again at a time when I don't think they realized in 2020s that Dollywood would be a national destination. So it's one of the things it was a good use of the space at the time. Now we have to rethink our decision.
Yeah. Well, and because it's got the space for you to go around, you don't have to go through it. You can go around it. So if you do like Lewis and you just shove it back and take out that space behind it, then you could maybe do more. And they're kind of making that more of, I mean, they've got the big topiary that goes there. So I can see them doing something with that area. It's just, it just gets so busy right there.
So speaking of the entrance of the park, while we're in Speculationville, where's the entrance to the park going to be next year or the year after? Is it going to be all the way out into where the parking lot is now, or are they going to?
I think the actual entrance is going to stay where it's at. I think you're still going to have your turnstiles and ticket stand, where you actually walk into the park is where it's going to be at. What I think is going to get moved is I think your ticket offices, and your the ticket offices, the dog kennel, all that I think is slowly going to get moved out towards the parking lot a little more, and really open up that area out in front of the park. Because one thing Dollywood is lacking that almost, if not every other major theme park in the country has, is a really good entrance plaza outside of the park, where you've got a sign outside of the park to take your picture with. A perfect example is Carowinds. If you've ever been over there, you've got a massive Carowinds sign in the middle, and your ticket offices are off to the side. And Dollywood doesn't really have it. You have the great Dollywood sign once you're in the park, but it's always so crowded there you can't get a good picture. But if you had the great Dollywood sign outside, I think that's something they could really use. And you move the ticket offices either just over to the far, I guess what would be right-hand side, kind of where the dog kennel is now. Put your ticket offices over there. maybe make it like an L shape and box the plaza in. But I really do feel like that ticket office its days are numbered.
Well, and the turnstiles used to be, I mean, they were farther up. It was like 10 years ago, at least. And they, not where they are now. And then they kept trying to back it up. So now I feel like it's going to be the opposite of that. I totally get what you're saying, Jack. I really do. And I'm also curious if they're going to then pull the turnstiles back. That way everybody has more room when they go in to see as Disney calls it, the weenie.
Yeah.
To walk in and then see the palace there and the Dollywood sign. So then and double it up. You've got, like you said, have the Dollywood sign ahead of time, a generic one, and then the one that constantly changes potentially there in front of the plaza.
I think. Yeah, and I can kind of see the other thing that won't surprise me at all is how right now it's got the two bridges that you walk across to get over.
Yeah.
It won't surprise me if that turns into one massive bridge in the next couple of years to really let people flow through. And then you could pull the turnstiles back a little, because that is one thing. You like walk through the turnstiles and it's immediately just like you're craning your neck, looking up at the building and the sign. Whereas if you were a little farther back, it'd probably be better for seeing it. So I could definitely see them pulling the tickets back or the turnstiles back. But I'm also not sure. They've done so much work on like the security and moving all of that right now, where they've started to streamline it enough to where I don't know if it's a priority for them in the next couple of years, but I could see that happening.
Everything's so digital now. I could see them just moving the turnstiles where the ticket offices are and just having, like you were saying, building a couple on the other side of the doggy kennel and having them there. I mean, I can see that. And then opening it up, then you walk through and get to see it in all its glory.
It was just such a long walk from the tram. To the entrance.
Yeah, that is another thing I've already heard that they've had a lot of complaints about, was how far out they moved the tram stop, and they did it. I think
I'm not whining about it like that. I mean, if I was in the pain, I would have been in the past, and when I take my wife there and I have to get her even to the scooter place, I will probably whine a little bit. But I just meant when I was walking in, it felt like there was just so much. They opened up so much space. I thought they might be expanding the park out a little bit.
And what's funny is if they do move the turnstiles there, you still have a long walk. It's just, then you're like, I'm inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just changing it, going, I've walked through the turnstiles. I'm now inside Dollywood. Mentally, that's all it does. It just changes it. Still just as far. Yep. It's just you get to you actually go through something first and go, I have arrived.
Yeah, I think and a lot of the entrance of Dollywood goes back to when the park was built, weren't expecting the crowds or the capacity. They also weren't ever, I think, planning on having to do security. That was a post 9/11 feature that got added to a lot of theme parks.
Yeah.
And then Dollywood for a long time was one of the only parks that didn't have metal detectors. They just, you got a bag, let me look in it. Then they finally added the metal detectors. They're like, okay, well, we got to pull security out. And then even once they expanded their security, it was still too busy, so they had to add more security. And I think what they've run into is every time they want to add something more, they have to go farther out to get the space for it, which is kind of the situation they ran into with this new tram shed and all of that. So you said really well earlier, they're having a lot of growing pains right now, which is a good thing because it means you're growing. But for a while, it's like that 4 or 5 year gap where you're trying to have the growing pains and still operate at a standard level, that it's just complicated.
Yeah. Well, and so it just makes me, now I'm going to jump to Wildwood Grove. I hope that's okay, Lewis, because we're just talking about the expanding, and I'm just curious now, all of that extra land behind Wildwood Grove, there's still only just, I know they're going to do it in phases, but the spot they've been working on since they opened Wildwood Grove, that's still the only section that they've been working on. And there's a whole other big spot there. And I'm very excited to see what happens there.
And they need it badly.
I gotta bite my tongue because I know what both of
Yeah.
them are.
Yeah, don't tell us. But so did you go up into Wildwood Grove, Jack?
I did. We did walk up there. We stood around and just talked up there for a little bit.
So did you see the seating, the covered seating area that's across from the swinging boat, that it's gone? Did you see that?
Yep.
And there's work going on the hill behind it there? Yeah.
Yep.
Stakes all put out and everything. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We'll see what we can trick him into here.
I can tell you this: keep an eye on it in the next couple of weeks. Everyone's going to figure it out what it is real quick.
It's going to be food.
About 3 weeks, everyone's going to know what it is.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, and there's going to be enough happening up there. Everyone will get a really good idea, and then the announcements in July. Don't quote me on that.
Where's my piece of paper? I'm going to write that. Make sure you're recording this, Lewis.
Ideally, I'll be recording the thing in July for you to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for because
I'm the only one sitting here on the other side. Both of you guys know that I'm like.
Wildwood Grove was always going to be a 3-phase project. So phase 1 was obviously 2019. Phase 2 is the 2023 project, and phase 3 is. The dates have all changed since the last time I got an update on the phases of the project. Phase 3 was originally 2024, 2025. So probably add 2 years. So we're probably looking late 2020s is probably going to be the end of Wildwood Grove. But it's going to be a really good overall addition for Dollywood. I do know I sit here knowing exactly what both of the rides are going to be, and I'll be the first to say I'll be there on opening day for both of them, so make of that what you will. And I think it's going to be really good for that area of the park because it has, ever since it's opened, it's been a great addition. I love Till and Harvest is great. You've got a great selection of rides for everyone from 3 years old up to Dragonflyer, which is actually one of the best family roller coasters I've been on, and that's I like to say that's saying a lot since I've ridden 330 roller coasters as of yesterday. I think the number's close.
And he hasn't been in Disney World.
And I haven't been to Disney World. So, it's a really good land, and I think what's coming is only going to make it better, in my opinion.
Well, and so you Jack mentioned about the addition of Wildwood Grove, and when you think back when they opened in 2019, and I walked in, granted Jack hasn't been to Disney, but one of the feelings I got was, man, this is wide open and flat, kind of like Walt Disney World, like a space in there. But that I can see the beginning, all of the phases across the park widening everything. I mean, that's what Wildwood Grove is, just these large, wide spaces for people to walk in. And it's starting to make its way throughout the entire park, which is really interesting.
I do hope they don't overdo it because I don't want it to become a black top island, right? Because that's
I agree.
Some of the problems with parts of Disney is there's too much open space and no shade.
Yeah.
Dollywood always had shade.
And Dollywood's beautiful, with the mountains and staying in that, and hopefully it just stays that way. I know they were cutting down a bunch of trees, but hopefully it will stay pretty wooded around the area.
Yeah, and I think Wildwood Grove is also, that was the first land that they've added to Dollywood since they completed the connection between the two sides of the park, which was in 2009 or maybe 2010 was when they finished the loop. And that was a lot, but even then that was kind of they just kind of followed the natural valley around the hill to build that. Wildwood Grove, they leveled multiple mountains to build.
Right.
And so it was the first land I think they've truly designed from scratch since the park kind of reached its, I call it peak form in the late 90s, early 2000s. As the first time they got to be like, okay, well, let's lay this out for the crowds we have now and the crowds we're anticipating. And yeah, if you look through the rest of the park, you can see the ideas: wider paths, more like presence on the midway. Because that was one of the great things they did with Wildwood Grove that was brilliantly done, was putting all the rides out front and their lines behind the rides. Put your presence on the midway, draw the people in. Yeah, they can wait behind it. They can still see the ride from behind the thing, but don't put your cattle pins of people in front of a ride. Put them behind it. That was one of the brilliant things they did. And I think
it's good for parents.
Yes.
Your parent, as a parent, you get to watch your child and not just be like, where is everybody?
Yeah. And I love talking about Wildwood Grove and the just brilliance that went into the design of that land, because one of the things not a lot of people will think about, and I'll use my classic comparison is Wildwood Grove versus the Planet Snoopy at Kings Island. If you've ever been to Planet Snoopy at Kings Island, there are 6 or 7 ways to get into that kids area. So, your kid, if you were like, okay, you can go ride some stuff, it wouldn't take a lot for a kid to get out of the kids area and get off into another section of the park. And if you've been to Kings Island, it's a big property. It'd be really easy to lose track of someone. What's masterful about Wildwood Grove is there's one way in and one way out, and they're in the same spot. And they built the restaurant with a patio overlooking that spot so parents can sit there and let their kids go off into the land. And they know as long as their kid doesn't pass them and go under that tree trunk, their kid is somewhere back in the land.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most brilliant things.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying let your 3-year-old run off into like Wildwood Grove by themselves, but I'm saying like your 7 or 8-year-old, let them go ride stuff and you can sit there and have some food and just keep an eye and make sure they don't shoot past. And it's one of the most brilliant things about Wildwood Grove that people don't realize consciously, but you realize it subconsciously. And it's like a taunt to people, and that was a very intentional decision they made to only make Wildwood Grove be one way in, one way out. And one of the things about the next 2 phases of the land is it's not going to change that. It's always going to be that way. And it's only going to add to it's a area of the park for everyone. So that's why I love Wildwood Grove.
I like it. Did you all notice?
I don't like that aspect of it, because if you are tired, walking back in, you got to walk back out.
Yeah. And that is the downfall. And that was one of the things they talked about. But when they sat down, it was like, well, this is an area for the kids primarily. They ended up going with that reasoning of it's a lot, quite frankly, it should be a lot harder to lose someone when they have to walk right past you to get out.
Yeah. I noticed the bridges there in Wildwood Grove up by the Wildwood tree. They had replaced the old wood logs. Did you all see those? It's all, and those things, man, they had fallen apart badly. It was surprising, but it looks, what they've got now looks great. It looks just fine.
That was one thing I noticed too while we were standing up there talking, was that they'd gotten rid of some of the wood railing. I think it was just, they're like, oh, this would look good. And then they forgot to factor in Tennessee humidity and rain and the weather, and it had all rotted in about 5 seconds.
Oh, man. Because, you're talking in 2019 it was there, and in 2021 it was already falling apart just about. But what they put up looked great. It looks like it's always been there. Matches just perfectly.
Yep.
Matches nicely.
That's one of the reasons you've seen them do so much work on Thunderhead the last couple of years, is because, not to get, since we're not going too crazy coaster detail, but Thunderhead's built out of a wood, southern yellow pine, pressure treated wood. It'll last a while, but it's not going to last forever. They're switching over to doing the track now in what is, we nickname it, it's nicknamed Ironwood. I'm going to tell you what it actually is called, because
interesting.
So it's Ironwood. Let's see. There's a bunch of different ones, but so the wood is just basically we call it ironwood, and that's because it is 5 times stronger than any other type of wood, which makes it a lot closer to the strengths of steel. And so the idea with that track now is that it won't lose shape. Because that's what makes a wooden coaster rough, is that the wood gets beat up and misshapen over time. And so you can feel all the little bumps in the wood and all the little jostles. And so the idea with this like ironwood is that it's more like steel. It's going to take a lot more to deform it. So in theory, the track should last 5 times longer. That was the number I was told, was 5 times longer. So
I forget what country
cool.
they said it came from. Brazil, or it was someplace.
Brazil, I'm pretty sure, is where they got it from. It is, I know this for a fact, it is so tough, they had to get more powerful nail guns. Like your typical run-of-the-mill nail gun will not cut it. You need something more powerful.
That's amazing. It's like diamond wood.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's running fantastic, I will say. They've done... When that roller coaster opened in 2004, it was the pinnacle of wooden roller coaster design. And even now, it's coming up on, 18 years now for that ride. And even 18 years later, it was still one of the best wooden coasters ever. Now that they've really got this track work going back on it, and it's running, according to some of my friends who rode it back then, running a lot closer to how it did in opening year, it's making its way back up to being one of the top 5 wooden coasters on the planet.
So do people not like the roughness? I like the roughness. The roughness is what makes it special. I can ride, the Tornado. It's
the difference between the roughness and the being beaten to death roughness.
Yeah.
When it was those, man, before they started doing the retrack, was it like 2019, Jack, when they were doing the retrack, or 2020?
2019 was the first year of the retrack. So 2018 was the last year.
When I rode whenever before they had started it, I had ridden it, and I was like, I don't know how many more times that I can ride. It's a great ride, but oh my, it was one you saved for the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then that retrack was amazing at how smooth it made it. I mean, it was still rough, but it was. I didn't have a headache.
There's like different levels of roughness, because I agree. I'm a wooden coaster person. Like if you give me a choice between a wood coaster and a steel coaster, I'll take the wood coaster all day. And part of what makes a wood coaster great is it's got that character. It's got the characteristic shakiness. It's got a little bump and some jolts, but that's all acceptable to me. What was bad was always when you're like when I'm in like physically shaking a lot, that's when it gets harder to enjoy. And so the problem with wooden roller coasters, especially the company that manufactured Thunderhead, Great Coasters International, they're so good at what they do that the first couple of years the rides run too smooth. They don't have that shakiness. But like Thunderhead now, this year, not the section they just retracked, but the section they did a couple of years ago, it's got that little bit of shake back to it. It's got the little bit of bounce, and it feels really good. And then you hit the new section of the track, and it feels like I'm on a steel roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. It just takes a little bit of time to break in.
Man, when it was rough, I mean, it's like your back, you just get all scrunched down in it. I'm like 2 inches shorter when I get off of it.
Yeah, but the guy who designed that ride, his name's Jeff Pike. I got the chance to talk to him a couple of years ago, and it was the first ride. It like completely reshaped how that company designed their roller coasters, and they'd opened 3 or 4 rides before that. The Roar clones at a pair of Six Flags parks and a couple of rides at Hershey Park. You go ride those, and they're like, okay, they're good. Then you ride Thunderhead. It's like, oh, okay. And then you ride any roller coaster they've built since Thunderhead opened, and you can see Thunderhead in it. Like you can just be like, that is straight off of Thunderhead. That is straight off of Thunderhead. That is like slightly modified off of Thunderhead. Because that was the ride where they redefined how they designed a roller coaster. And 18 years later, they're still following that formula. They just opened a ride in South Korea that you watch the video of it. It's like, turn your head a little. It's like, yep, there's Thunderhead.
Okay, so
Oh my God.
what changes have we missed? We haven't talked about the Emporium,
You gotta talk about
the
the Emporium.
bakery, and
I was gonna say I
and how
can't
Iron
stay
Horse
on
kind
much
of had that
longer, but
same aesthetic. So
Yeah.
what'd you say?
I can't stay on much longer. But we can.
Okay.
Well, I think we're just about with
We can
everything.
wind
What'd
this
you say?
down.
Emporium?
Yeah, I think that's
We
the.
got that's the big one we got to talk about still. It's
What do
very
you think,
bright.
Zach? I know what he thinks.
It's very
His
bright.
face is saying it actually.
It is bright
I think it's
and gray,
it's got the mid-century modern feel to
and
it.
and yeah, it's very modern. I can see the ceiling all the way up to the top. Now.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I like the lights. I miss the lights.
I think our tone is kind of. I understand it. I mean, I totally. We're talking. You guys have been mentioning it, widening everything up, and it's just it loses. To me, it lost its charm. I feel like it lost a little bit of its charm. I really liked the wood flooring on the side, the original wood. I liked the coloring of it. I understand, but it looks. If I look at the pizza place and I look at the Emporium, they look the same. It's the same color
Yes, they
scheme.
do.
It's the exact
In the
same
bakery.
thing.
They all
Yeah.
have the same.
It's that gray tone modern.
Yeah, I think again, it looks good. Like they did a good job on it. I'm not gonna say it looks bad.
No,
But the Dollywood, like purist in me, yes, I loved the old wood feel and all the string lights and the old Dolly sign, like that. Those were just they scream Dollywood, and it's just one of those things that's gonna take a while to get used to. The other thing I was thinking a lot about as I was walking around that park, and then I had a 4-hour drive after I left the park, so I spent a decent amount of time thinking through some of this. Was there's a lot of things about Dollywood that are great, and a lot of things like, as someone who went there all of the time, in the tail end of the years, I guess right before this change, as we'll call it, there's a lot of things where it's like, the Dollywood I grew up with is kind of fading away. But at the same time, all of the new people who are just discovering Dollywood aren't going to know.
Yep, that's
and
right.
They're probably going to appreciate how it looks and how it feels because it's their first time and they don't have anything to compare it to. Whereas the three of us, we're going to sit around and we're going to be like, oh, I wish they'd reopen Granny Ogles. Oh, I wish they'd do this. Oh, I wish they'd do that. And I have to keep reminding myself we're not their only 3 customers.
Right.
Jeez, I really think we're talking about Epcot again.
Yeah,
it's the exact same kind of.
Every once in a while, I feel like I'm turning into Diz Twitter for Dollywood.
Yeah, I just hope it's not like don't bother Craftsman's Valley. Like it's got to have that. It just has to have the same buildings and that aged look and the aged feel. When they start to change that stuff, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, did that bother you a little bit when they did Wildwood Grove, that it had the kind of not weathered look compared to the rest of the park?
It didn't bother me at all. Because it was so different walking into it. They had set it up as a themed area so well that when I walked in there, it was just like, well, this is pretty cool. And I knew what it was. I guess if they had torn down, Thunderhead or something and added it or tried to retheme an entire area, I would have felt differently. But Wildwood Grove didn't bother me. It was brand new. I guess.
Go ahead.
I can agree with that because again, if you torn down Craftsman's Valley or something to build it, then it would have been like, okay, what are y'all doing? That's not a good move. But since it was this whole new addition, it was like supposed to be more modern and all of that, I'm okay with it. And then also I know, as we've already seen with those fences having to get removed, everything's going to get weathered as it goes on. It's Tennessee. Nothing will survive in perfect condition forever.
So this really is a Diz Twitter sort of thing, because the very same thing that I did not like about Wildwood Grove when I first saw it, because it looked kind of new and different, is exactly this thing you're having problem with the Emporium, because you want it to look like my grandfather's house with the tile and the paneling and the,
Yep.
you know, the you want it to look like it's 100 years old, and they've made it look like it's, you know, like Chip and Joanna Gaines has come in and
That's
did
exactly
Well,
what it looks like.
And
honestly.
I think that's my problem, I guess, is that it's the Chip and Joanna Gain look. I have nothing against them, but it's the same problem I have with people painting brick. I just don't like. There's a brand new house that they built 2 years ago behind us. Beautiful red brick. I mean, it's just a beautiful house. And then they painted it white. And I was just like, why didn't you just put siding on it? I mean, why would you paint it? I don't know. I just have a thing against painting brick. So that's about how I feel, that they went into the Emporium and now it's this immaculate white and gray tones, and it's all right. It's okay. It's just different.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of those things. We're going to see that happen throughout the park. But like we were talking about, like, are they going to do anything to Craftsman's Valley? And I think they've actually kind of already showed us they're committed to preserving it, because you probably did notice it, but a lot of people I know didn't. They completely re-roofed the roof of the church, and they spared no expense when they did it.
And the water trough, they've redone a lot of that. Yeah,
they've redone a lot of that, and they've kept it looking rustic. Like, you look at the water trough, there's a couple of boards that they haven't weathered, but a lot of it they pre-weathered. And like the roof of the church, they didn't get, like, you could have easily gotten a cheap roof, but they had craftsmen's handcraft that roof out of wood shingles for them. Like, they didn't spare an expense when they did that. And so that shows me they're already committed to trying to keep Craftsman's Valley. And like with the blacksmith shop, when they moved the blacksmith shop and they put the new food or the new covering up for food where the old blacksmith shop was, they blend in. They look like they've been there for a long time. The only reason they don't look like they've been there for a long time to us is because we know they haven't been there.
Yeah. Oh, so the blacksmith shop looks a lot better now that they've had all that coal in there for almost 2 years now. I mean, it looks, it really does look just like it's always been right there.
And it looks fantastic. So we were talking about the Emporium though. I wanted to make that quick comment, but what do you all think about the merchandise this year?
I haven't taken time to look at. I've only been twice. I've been kind of busy both days. So
it's been upped. I feel like there's a lot more actual Dollywood options, if that makes sense. Like, not like, hey, I went on Amazon and I bought a mug and then I printed Dollywood on it. Like that, I feel like it's, or, you know, my best friend's mother got out her, you know, Cricut and made this thing and slapped it on there and gave it to me. There's some actual, I feel like there's actual Dollywood merchandise, real Dollywood merchandise.
That was what stuck out to me walking into the Emporium after I got over all of the just changes to the Emporium, just like doing like a 180 turn. It was like so many good Dollywood t-shirts and so many good just Dolly t-shirts. Like, it felt like they had a lot more. And actually, one of my friends that worked at the park was with me at the time, and I'm like, y'all have really done a good job on the merchandise. He's like, yes, we got the feedback constantly that we didn't have great merchandise.
Oh, yeah.
We spent the last year working with multiple companies developing all of this. And let me pull one of them over for y'all to see. One of the things they got that I've been begging them for forever was to do the nano coasters.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a great company called Coaster Dynamics. I actually got the chance to interview the people who design them and make them a couple of years ago on my former podcast. And it's such a cool idea because you can literally build your favorite ride. So this is the Lightning Rod Nano Coaster. They did a fantastic job with it. And they're flying off the shelves.
I believe it.
Actually, yep. I got the Tornado one.
Oh, man. I feel so out of place now. I'm gonna have to get one.
Yep, they're fantastic. I've got to get I've got the lightning rod one, obviously, is right here, and I've got my Thunderhead one is over there.
Do they have Dragonflyer?
They do have Dragonflyer, I'm pretty sure.
Well, then that's the one I'm going to have to get.
Yeah, they're just such a good. They're so much fun to put together, I think, and they look really good on the shelf. So I have a bunch of these from parks all around the country. It's like, why don't y'all have them? Why don't y'all have them? They finally worked on them and finally got them to happen. It's like, thank you for finally doing this.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So if you're listening and you like the coasters at Dollywood, highly, highly recommend these. But just a bunch of random things like that. It felt like they finally were doing a lot of merchandise that was like I've wanted for a while, like a good Dollywood T-shirt.
One of the coffee mugs that I saw, like we usually just about every time we end up buying a coffee mug, and one of them, I think I'd posted a picture of it, and it's got butterflies on it all the way around, mind you. This mug has this decoration all the way around it, front and back, which is not something you always see. And then it has the Dollywood word, the name, all the way around it multiple times, which is not something that you normally see. They usually just have, one side is done. And that was really cool. Which one is that? Thunderhead?
This is Thunderhead. Yeah, I grabbed it real quick. So yeah,
that's just pretty good looking too.
Look at how big that thing is.
I know, right?
When you look at that coaster that way, it's just
that's nothing compared. Right, there's so much more track there.
Yeah, this one was a ton of fun to put together. And then since we're talking about them, here I'll show you this one too.
Tornado lasts about 2 seconds compared to.
This is the Outlaw Run Nano Coaster from Silver Dollar City in Missouri. So this is Dollywood's sister park.
Yeah.
And so this is one of my other favorite roller coasters.
Look at that thing.
So I have that one. So it's hard. Y'all are on my computer. I'd turn you and see, but I've got a whole little shelf of them over here.
Did we expect he wouldn't?
That's pretty cool.
So
that is neat. Yeah, I think they upped their game on the merchandise, which I'm very pleased to see. I agree.
I know last year I noticed they had more larger shirts. That was good. And then the ornaments. I always wanted a Christmas ornament, and I remember the years past I'd looked and I didn't find any. Last year there was too many to choose from.
Yeah. They've really done a good job of increasing the merchandise, I feel like, which is why I wanted to ask what y'all thought, just because. And then the other thing, where's one of the good ones? I'll pull this one down. They did the pins last year, which are just fantastic.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I've got one for, I think, the 4 big coasters, so or that they did on 4, which are the Lightning Ride, Fire Chaser, Wild Eagle, and Mystery Mine. My favorite one they did is actually this one.
The church, yeah.
The church. Wow. I love this pin.
I wish I had. I'm glad you did it, Jack. I mean, I wish I had gotten them because it will be neat to have basically first edition pins, Dollywood pins. I wish I had gotten at least one. But when I looked at them, I was like, if I get one, I'm in trouble. I'm going to end up buying them all. And every time they come out with one, I'm going to have to buy it. So that was kind of where I got.
So on the wall behind where my computer is, I have a bunch of bulletin boards. And so there's they're littered with pins from theme parks all around the country. Like, here, I'll pull this one down if I can get. Yeah,
I may or may not have a selection of bulletin boards that are put away because I don't have room for them anymore.
Yeah, this is from a ride out in Idaho. It's called Timber Terror. Fun fact: Lightning Rod wouldn't exist without that roller coaster. That's the ride that I got the guy that ended up starting the company that built Lightning Rod started. That was the first ride he ever built. Was Timber Terror.
That's neat.
So I love pins, and so as soon as the Dollywood ones got released, I was like, hey, here's my money. Take it. Just keep taking my money. Yeah.
All right. How about we say this? Do you guys want to come back again semi-occasionally and do this?
Yeah.
Talk about Dollywood.
That's
There's
fine.
so many parks. Whatever.
Yes. We can definitely do that because I would.
If you have any other guests you want to add, we bring it on. We can.
Well, and there's so much I'm looking forward to at Dollywood this year because I actually wasn't planning on going a ton this year. And I'm probably still not going to get to go a ton, but I'm really excited to get back over for summer celebration at some point and see all the
Oh, yeah.
changes they're making for that. And then
Yeah.
I'm also really excited. I missed a year of Christmas. I didn't go to Christmas at all last year, so I'm excited to get back to that this year too.
I can't wait to see the kites.
Yes.
The umbrellas are amazing. Kites, that's going to be pretty awesome.
And the next time I see you two, I have a present for both of you.
Uh-oh.
That involves some umbrellas.
Ooh, umbrellas. Ooh, I like it. Very
cool.
cool.
Well, let's call this a night.
Awesome.
All right. Do we need to sign off? What do you want us to do?
I was going to say, I did it again. Jack, where can people find you?
Yep, I get to slip back into my old podcast host here for a second. If you are interested in following me for all things Dollywood related and theme parks from around the country and world, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThrillingMoment for all of the roller coaster photos and hot takes galore.
And I am less professional than that. I'm just Justin. I'm at Snapshots Made on Twitter, Snapshots Made yesterday on Instagram and Facebook. And I have one hot take, and that's the that's the cinnamon pretzel is better than Dollywood cinnamon. That's my hot take.
Yeah, the hot takes line, I don't do it as much as I used to. I don't have as many as I used to, but that line got added in after I said a couple things on my podcast.
Yep.
It's just kind of stuck around. It's like, oh, follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all the roller coaster goodness and hot takes galore. It's just how I've signed it for a while. So
it works. It works.
I am the least controversial person on Twitter. That's my goal in the world.
I try to stay as least controversial. When I post something controversial, I want it to be funny controversial. I want everyone to laugh and have fun with it. I try to avoid this Twitter. That's my motto.
Following you on Twitter is a lesson in how not to be envious.
There you go. That's
coveting of your neighbor, because you're always somewhere, and it's not. I'm running this coaster this weekend. This coaster, that coaster.
It was hilarious. I stopped by my high school a couple of weeks ago to drop something off and say hi to a few people. And one of my teachers came up to me. It was like, is your life really as crazy as your Instagram and Twitter make it out to be? And I was like, would you believe me if I said it's crazier? And they're like, I don't know how it could be crazier. I'm like, yeah, it's like the ridiculous travel schedule is very real. I don't know how I'm surviving, but this coming weekend I have another trip, and it's week 14 in a row of having a trip.
Oh my gosh,
that's a bad number. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Now I'm a little scared.
I mean, to be fair, I am going to Dollywood Sunday, and then I'm going back to Dollywood Tuesday to Thursday for the Insider Gathering. And then I'm probably going to go to Dollywood again. I got all sorts of stuff to do, but compared to what we see on your Twitter, it's just I don't do anything, and I spend 3 weeks a year at least at Disney. I go at least 12 times a year to Dollywood, and usually more like 14 or 15 times. And I still feel like I'm not busy at all compared to college guy here.
So like the long story short is I have a job that I have to like commute to Atlanta for about once a month. And so that's something that takes up time. And then I'm at theme parks and all that. This weekend I'm going down to Atlanta for a Braves game. I'm excited to go see my Atlanta Braves play the Marlins. That'll be fun. But yeah, it's crazy. The Twitter's the travel on Twitter. It's very real. It's very crazy. It's very real.
And we're going to fade out right here. Just fading out before we keep talking about something else.
Yep.
It's already an hour and 30. I'm going to have to edit my life away here. Hopefully this will be out by the next time I talk to you. I'm thinking we should just do this live.
That would be fun.
Go live and we'll talk. And anybody who wants to join, we'll add them into the conversation.
Yeah. Well, we can do it. Why not?
See if I can set that up.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks.